Hi everyone, I'm Emily Teacher, and today we're going to be reading Faces in the Mountain. Visitors of South Dakota find that a trip to Mount Rushmore is almost obligatory, for there they can see one of America's most awe inspiring monuments. Carved into a granite mountainside, the colossal heads of the four United States presidents are visible for a distance of 60 miles. Side by side, the visages of George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, Abraham Lincoln, and Theodore Roosevelt range from 50 to 70 feet in height. They are the work of the remarkable American sculptor and dramatic personality Gutzon Borglum. So, we're going to learn a little bit about Mount Rushmore today. Born in Idaho in 1867, Borglum led an artist's vagabond life in America and Europe for 20 years before settling in New York City in 1901. There, he soon achieved an international reputation as a sculptor. The idea that small is beautiful would not have applied to Borglum. His view was that bigger is better. The impetus for the Mount Rushmore project came in 1926 when the state historian of South Dakota, knowing Borglum's views, invited him to create a monumental work of art for the Black Hills Mountain region. Borglum accepted the challenge immediately, but the project he proposed did not meet with universal approval. Many felt that the carvings would detract from the area's natural beauty. Cora Johnson, a South Dakota journalist, expressed such feelings when she wrote, "Man makes statues, but God made the mountains. Leave them alone." Borglum, however, was not one to heed this advice. So when South Dakota had invited Borglum to create a big work of art in the mountains, not everybody was a big fan of it. Some, like the journalist Cora Johnson, thought that man's art should not be portrayed on God's art on the mountains. But Borglum did not care about that. The question of which national figures to honor caused much debate. Sioux Chief Red Cloud, who had fought against white encroachment on Native American lands, was one of the names proposed. Another was Susan B. Anthony, who had bewailed 19th century women's lack of the right to vote in political elections and led the struggle to emancipate them from this deprivation. The final decision, however, was left to Borglum. Washington, Jefferson, and Lincoln were obvious choices, but Borglum had a personal reason for his fourth selection, a man of enormous energy who extolled physical fitness and vigorous activity. In his own life, Borglum strove to emulate his hero, so Theodore Roosevelt became the fourth figure honored at Mount Rushmore. So there was a lot of debate whether, who they were going to pick to be the statues on the mountainside. They knew they wanted those three presidents first, Washington, Jefferson, and Lincoln. But for the fourth spot, there was a lot of debate if it should be a Native American chief or Susan B. Anthony, who helped give women the right to vote. But at the end of it, Borglum made his own choice, so he decided to choose Theodore Roosevelt because that was his own hero. Money to pay for the project was a problem from the beginning, and work proceeded intermittently, especially after 1930 when the country was in the grip of the Great Depression. During those years, Borglum made frequent visits to the nation's capital seeking financial assistance. Loath to stoop to wheedling, the sculptor managed to convince a reluctant Congress to provide funding to go on with the project. Nor was a lack of funds the only problem Borglum had to grapple with. Because of the hard granite rock, the difficulties of carving out the faces had at first seemed insuperable. But Borglum solved the problem by exploding small charges of dynamite to remove pieces of rock. Under his supervision, workers in harnesses suspended from the mountaintop drilled, chipped, and chiseled away at the rock. So skillful was Borglum that his eye for precise measurement enabled him to tell if a line was plumb to a quarter of an inch. So during the Great Depression, the whole country didn't have a lot of money. It was a really big problem at the time. Everyone was struggling. But Borglum managed to find financial help to continue on his project from a reluctant Congress. They didn't want to give him the money, but he managed to convince them. So he was able to keep sculpting But the problem was this mountainside rock was made of granite. Granite is a very, very strong rock, so it's hard to just chisel at and to sculpt. So he used small charges of dynamite, put them in the mountainside, and would explode small pieces of rock at a time while people were sculpting. During his lifetime, Borglum had earned enormous sums from the sale of his works. However, he did not embrace Benjamin Franklin's maxim, a penny saved is a penny earned. Instead, he lived a flamboyant lifestyle. His daughter Mary Ellis recalls, he loved flashy cars and hired chauffeurs to drive them. So careless was he about money that he died destitute on March 6, 1941, before he'd finished Mount Rushmore. It was left to his son Lincoln, who had assisted him throughout, to complete the project 8 months later. So Borglum was not a very humble man, and he didn't like to save money. He spent all of his money, even though he made so much in his lifetime. By the time he died, he didn't have any left. And so it was his son who continued to finish Mount Rushmore project 8 months after his father had died. Thank you for reading with me today. We have links that are related to each article, and if you want the link for this one here, you can find it down in the description below.